Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to the Thursday, May 30th edition of the MMAOB Daily Show. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin. You can find me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin. You can find this podcast at MMAOddsbreaker.com and in our YouTube channel. And of course, you can follow my work also at MMAOddsbreaker.com, of course, SureDog.com, MMAnews.com, MMARings.net, and BJPen.com. So check all those websites out. Definitely a few things to talk about today, a couple fight announcements. Also, one prominent UFC fighter asking for his release, so I'll get right into it. Probably the most important of the new fight announcements is a non-title featherweight fight added to UFC 240 between Chris Cyborg and Alicia Spencer. So I'm surprised this isn't a vacant title fight. That was the rumors for a while, but Dana White says it's a non-title fight, 3 rounds. It'll be the co-main event. The main event, of course, being Frankie Edgar and Max Holloway for the featherweight title, the men's featherweight title. This is a great fight. I like this matchup a lot. Of course, Cyborg coming off the knockout loss to Manny Nunez, her first loss, I believe, in like 15 years or something. Pretty surprising loss the way she lost, anyways, considering how dominant she was before. You know how good Nunez is, so no surprise there, I guess, in that Nunez was able to get the knockout. That's how she wins her fights. But the fact that she knocked out Chris Cyborg is pretty impressive. I was definitely shocked by the outcome of that fight. That lasted a minute. Probably one of the best minutes of MMA ever. So definitely an exciting fight. And Felicia Spencer coming off a tremendous first-round win over Megan Anderson. She's 7-0, former Invicta champion, so she's great. It's funny, though, Dana White's like, she'd be a top 3 opponent of Megan Anderson. I think we all know that Megan Anderson's only top 3 because that division only has 3 fighters. Still, it was a good win. It definitely, showed that Felicia Spencer's a great fighter in her own right, and she's going to be taking on by far the biggest challenge of her career here in the form of Chris Cyborg, and it's a tough fight for her, I think. I personally favor Chris Cyborg quite heavily in this fight. I know she did lose again to Nunez, got knocked out in brutal fashion, and she's getting up there in age now, but I think she beats Felicia Spencer. I just don't see Spencer being able to implement that ground game in this fight. Cyborg has tremendous takedown defense, good wrestling, great wrestling, actually, underrated wrestling. Felicia Spencer probably is going to have to knock her out. I don't see that happening either. It's possible Cyborg's chin has been compromised after taking, so many fights in her career and so much damage and training and stuff like that. But I just think Nunez is tremendous. I don't see Spencer being able to get that finish. So to me, it's like Cyborg's going to win this fight. So I would definitely line Cyborg as a big favorite, at least minus 500 in this fight. I hope we get her for less. People might be writing her off after the loss to Nunez, but I'm not one of them. I think Cyborg's still a great fighter in her own right. And, I like Felicia Spencer, and I think it's great that she's fighting in Canada, but don't like this matchup for her. And I would definitely favor, like I said, Chris Cyborg quite heavily in this matchup. Another women's fight. This is actually the main event of UFC Sacramento, and I'm not sure about this being a main event, but let's talk about the fight for a sec. Jermaine Durandamy returns against Aspen Ladd. On paper, it's a good fight, no doubt about it. Aspen Ladd deserves a step up. I'm just going to pull her record out quickly here. Like, she's looked really good in the UFC, no doubt about it. Aspen Ladd 8-0, back-to-back. Well, actually, she has 3 wins in the UFC. She beat Lena Landsberg, Tanya Evinger, and then her last fight of the night against Sijara Eubanks. And that was a really, really good fight for sure. That was only a couple weeks ago, so she's getting a really quick turnaround. A little surprising, I guess, because she did take quite a bit of damage in that fight herself, but they need a main event for that card, and the card's, 6 weeks away? They need a main event for it, and she stepped up, and she's going to fight Jermaine Durandamy here. Jermaine Durandamy, obviously one of the most experienced fighters in the UFC women's bantamweight division. She's on a 4-fight win streak. Raquel Pennington, Holly Holm, Anna Elmos, Larissa Pacheco. Her last loss was to Manny Nunez in 2013 by knockout. So it's been a while since she's lost. Of course, she was the UFC featherweight champion, the women's featherweight champion, and dropped her title because she did not want to fight Cyborg. Moved back to bantamweight, beat Raquel Pennington, and now she fights Aspen Ladd. It's basically a prospect versus veteran fight. So I like the matchup itself, but I'm not really buying it as a main event. Personally, I'm very sour on Jermaine Durandamy after what happened in the featherweight division, dropping her belt because she didn't want to fight someone. I don't know. She's definitely a good fighter, no doubt about it. Her striking is amazing, experienced. She's big for that division. She's good. So is Aspen Ladd. Aspen Ladd's good, but I don't know how many people are going to be too excited about this being a 5-round main event. I don't know. Not me personally. Again, they didn't have many options. Faber, I think, would have been a good option, even though he's coming back off a long way off, but they chose to give him a 3-round fight against Ricky Simone. And Cody Garbrandt wasn't available, so there really wasn't any other options. I guess you could have did Josh Emmett versus Mirsad Bektic as the main event. I think that might have been a better main event, actually. But, as far as rankings go, this probably is a higher-ranked fight. And the winner of this fight might be in title contention at 135, especially if it's Ladd. I think the UFC really likes her. I like her too. I think she's a really good fighter. Almost all of her wins are a stoppage. She keeps looking good, better and better every fight. She looked really good in the octagon. But again, Jermaine Randomby, I don't know. Like, just say Jermaine Randomby wins. Then what? Then you killed off Aspen Ladd as a prospect for now, anyways. And you have another fighter in Jermaine Randomby who I don't think fans want to see her fight for a belt. So to me, it's a good matchup as far as styles go, as far as rankings go, and all that stuff. But I just feel like there's a lot of risk here on the UFC's part, because if Aspen Ladd loses, then Jermaine Randomby is the winner of this fight, and she's not someone the fans want to see fight for a belt. So to me, it's kind of a risky matchmaking. The UFC's probably banking on Aspen Ladd winning the fight. But it's not an easy matchup, though. I mean, Aspen Ladd's got good wrestling, and her striking is getting better, but Jermaine Randomby is a really, really good striker with strong takedown defense. And I think this is a tough fight for Aspen Ladd. So as far as the line goes, I think it's going to be lined really evenly. I would assume Ladd will probably be the favorite because, first off, she was a massive favorite in the last fight. She's always a favorite, it seems like. She's also a lot younger. She's 24. Jermaine Randomby's 35. So the age advantage is Ladd's favor. The undefeated advantage is in her favor. But again, stylistically, I think GDR can win this fight. So I would line it pretty close. And honestly, if GDR was a big dog, for whatever reason, if people aren't buying her as a fighter, I would take a shot on her in this fight, because I think that stylistically she could win the fight. So I'm curious to see this line. But again, it's kind of a weird matchup in that if GDR wins, you have a fighter that fans don't want to see fight for a belt, being a top contender at 135. So, you know, it's a little confusing. I mean, we'll see. But again, they didn't have many options for the main event, and this was one of the only options. So this is the fight we get. This is the main event, UFC Sacramento, a card that I will not be watching because my sister's getting married that same day. So one of the few cards I can't watch live this year. I don't feel like I'm missing that much, honestly, but I'll check it out later. The other matchup that was announced is actually a pretty intriguing welterweight bout between Claudio Silva and Ramazan Emeev. This was broken by Rafael Mariano of Kambachi. So I like this fight a lot. By the way, this fight is taking place at UFC Sochi. So that's the Russia card, August 3rd in Sochi, UFC on ESPN 5. I just want to pull up these guys' records. So Claudio Silva is coming off of a tremendous win over Danny Roberts, which was, I think, one of the best fights of the year. Amazing fight. I think that should have won fight of the night. It's crazy it didn't win fight of the night, but great fight. He's 4-0 in the UFC. Wins over Brad Scott, Leon Edwards, which is a massive win. Nordine Taleb and Danny Roberts. He's actually 13-1 in his career. His last loss was in 2007 by DQ. So this guy's basically undefeated. He's an older guy. He's 36, but man, he's good. His ground game is really good. Almost all his wins are by submission. Guy's phenomenal. And, you know, you look at him and you think his cardio sucks, but somehow this guy manages to pull off wins. So he's a really good fighter. And then you got Ramazan Emeev. Let me pull up his record quickly here. He's been winning too. He's on a nice win streak as well. Let me just get his record. Ramazan Emeev, 18-3 record. He's on a 7-fight win streak right now, and he's 3-0 in the UFC. Beat Sam Alvey at middleweight, and then moved down to welterweight and beat Alberto Mina and Stefan Sukulic all by decision. Guy's a really good prospect, well-rounded fighter. And you know what? He probably does win this fight, but first off, he's 32, so it's not like he's a young guy either. He's definitely like more of a veteran. Just he doesn't have that many fights in the octagon. Been fighting since 2009. But the fact he has only won his fights by decision does concern me at this level. So it's kind of showing me that maybe he doesn't have the ability to finish fights at this level, whereas Claudio Silva does, as we've seen. So I do think, again, the fact this fight's in Russia, I would definitely assume Emeev will be the favorite. And it seems like he's always a favorite in his fights. The bettors seem to think this guy's a good fighter to back, and so far so good. But Claudio Silva has been a guy that's won as an underdog. He's won fights that he's been counted out in, and you know what? I would not be surprised if he won. So I would line Emeev as a favorite just because of the hype, because he's Russian, and because the fight's in Sochi. But I think Claudio Silva has a chance to win this fight, so I'd be careful about this one if I was you guys. But again, we don't have the line yet. We'll have to wait. What is that? August 3rd, so it's 2 months away, over 2 months away. The only other thing I want to talk about here is it's a kind of a crazy story, actually. John Lineker, who I think is one of the best fighters ever at 135 and 125, one of the most exciting guys in the UFC, bar none. He's requested his release in the UFC, and the reason is he's saying, I'm not getting fights. And if you look at his record, first off, he's 31-9 in his career. He has a tremendous record in the UFC. He's 12-4, I believe. So that's a great record. He's only fought once a year in the last 3 years, and he's getting really pissed off. And I don't blame the guy. I mean, first off, he's an amazing fighter. He's exciting as hell. Every fight he's in is good. He's won how many bonuses? 1, two, three, four bonuses in his career. It's pretty solid. But look, he lost a split decision to Corey Sandhagen earlier this year in April. I picked Sandhagen to win that fight. I thought he'd pull it off. Sandhagen's a great prospect. No shame in that loss, I don't think. And it was a split decision. And I thought John Lineker probably did win the fight. So you know what? That's not a bad loss because it was a close fight. And then before that, he knocked out Brian Kelleher in 2018. And then before that, 2017, beat Marlon Vera. And then he didn't fight since 2016. So he's only had one fight a year the last 3 years. And considering how good this guy is and how exciting he is, that's actually surprising and pretty bad on the UFC's part, I think. And he went out on Twitter and called out Sean Shelby and called out the matchmakers and said, hey, I'm not getting fights. I want to be cut. I want to get released. I want to go fight somewhere else. Again, how do you blame the guy? The guy needs to make a living. He's fighting once a year. He doesn't make that much money. And you know what? He's 28 years old. He's in the prime of his career. He needs to make more money, and he needs to fight more often. The guy is, like I said, one of the most incredible fighters ever at 135, 125. I think he probably would have beat DJ, or not even beat him, but just given him a better fight than most guys. But he couldn't make weight, so he had issues making 125. He had to move to 135, but at 135, he was a stud. Beat John Dodson, beat Rob Font, beat Michael McDonald, beat Francisco Rivera, beat Marlon Vera, beat Brian Kelleher. So he's good. And then again, at 125, beat Ian McCall, he beat Phil Harris, he beat Alpo Oskalic, he beat Yasuhiro Yoshitani, he beat Iliardi Santos. He had some good wins at flyweight, but again, couldn't make the weight. He missed weight a bunch of times since moving up. He missed weight once against John Dodson by 0.5 pounds, which was bad, but he really hasn't missed weight since. So 4 fights since, hasn't missed weight. He did get dominated by TJ Dillashaw, but most guys do. I don't think that's that bad of a loss. The guy's amazing, man. And it's pretty much a shame that the UFC's not giving him fights. So will they cut him? I don't know. But the fact he says, if you don't like me or my style, just let me go is pretty terrible. And you know what? I think it reflects really poorly on the UFC. For some reason, this guy's in the doghouse. Again, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Sometimes things go on behind the scenes, negotiations, just relationships that we don't know much about. Like, we don't know if he has a good relationship with the matchmakers. We'd hope he does because he's a great fighter and he's exciting, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe his manager, has been giving him a hard time. Maybe he wants to make more money. I don't know exactly what's happening, but I do know that he only fights once a year. And for a guy that's arguably the most exciting guy in that division, he's always in good fights. It's pretty terrible that he only fights once a year. So we'll see what happens. But if he gets cut, I mean, Bellator would call him right away, 100%. And that's probably why the UFC doesn't want to let him go, because Bellator would call him, PFL would call him. I think one championship would be a tremendous fit for John Lineker. I think Ryzen would be a tremendous fit for John Lineker. This guy is good everywhere. I think the UFC is a great fit for him. He should be in the UFC. He's one of the best guys in the world. So, yeah, you guys can tell I'm fired up about this one. But this, to me, just kind of grosses me out. I mean, the guy's amazing. He knocks out everyone, goes to decisions, and puts on exciting fights, and he does. I don't get it. It's really strange to me. Hands of Stone, amazing fighter again. One of my personal favorites over the years. Just so good to watch, so much fun to watch. And for some reason can't get a fight. So that's pretty sad. And we'll see what happens. But I don't know. I don't see the UFC cutting him. I really don't. But we'll see. One other thing I want to talk about quickly. Elias Theodorou did comment about his UFC release on Twitter. Anyways, a fan messaged him and said, or someone was talking about Joe Rogan's comments about Elias Theodorou. So Joe Rogan said in his podcast he was shocked by Elias being cut. As you guys know, I'm not shocked by it. It's still kind of weird that a ranked fighter is getting released, but we all know his style is not the most exciting. A fan on Twitter said that he was boring. He's talking about Elias. He was boring, not entertaining. You guys know that's half the battle. And then Elias actually took the time to reply and said, and I quote, for some time, I prided myself at being an unorthodox fighter able to outsmart his opponent in a formal competition. I can see now to many the entertainment. A violence always victory, looking to take the time to grow not only as a martial artist, but as a prize fighter. So maybe this has woke him up a little bit, and he says he's seeing now that, hey, it's not just about winning. It's also about putting in good fights. And that's true. The UFC is an entertainment. MMA is an entertainment sport, but the UFC is an entertainment company as well as a sporting company. So I think that's the reason he was caught. Again, we don't know. I mean, there's stuff going on behind the scenes of fans and media are not privy to. So maybe there's other stuff going on there, but we do know that he was released. And, the fact that he's saying, hey, I'm going to go back to the drawing board and try to get more exciting, that's a good thing. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think the guy's great, and I don't know what's going to happen with him. He, like I said, he's great with the fans. Fighting style not so great, but I still think that he's got some value somewhere. So we're going to see what happens. I think maybe I don't see Bellator getting him, like I said, but I think PFL would be a good spot if they do middleweight tournament. I think he'd be a heavy favorite to win that tournament, to be honest, maybe next season. Don't know if he wants to wait a year. If there's a local show in Ontario, they don't really do them here anymore in Ontario, but if some promoter does, he would be the perfect guy to main event that. So like Substance Cage Combat or like Global Warriors or something, if they do another show, even TKO I think would be a good spot for him, to be honest, just because again the fans love the guy here in Canada for the most part. Not the last fight, we all know what happened there. You got booed in the Brunson fight, but I still think there's value in this guy. He's still relatively young. He's a good looking guy. He's popular. He's just got to work on his style. He's just got to make it more exciting. And I think this could be that wake up call. And we've seen in the past. Derek Brunson is a perfect example, actually, of changing your style. Look at Derek Brunson. When he came to the UFC, he was a lay and prayer. Look at the Chris Lieben fight, his first fight in the UFC. He lay and prayed his way to win that fight, and he changed his style and became one of the most exciting knockout artists in the division. I don't know if Elias has that pure knockout power explosiveness that Derek Brunson has, but Derek Brunson is the perfect guy for Elias to kind of look at and say, hey, this is a guy that the UFC didn't like, the fans didn't like. He was a boring fighter and changed his style to become an exciting fighter that fans wanted to see. So I think Elias can learn a lot from that loss, and it seems like he has. So we'll have to see what happens. But again, I'm curious to see where he goes. He'll get signed. He'll fight again. I just don't know where, what promotion he'll go to. So that's pretty much it for today, guys. Hopefully nothing else breaks. Like I said, like the other day when the favorite thing broke right after I did the show, that was kind of funny. But hopefully nothing else breaks, right now. But I'll be back tomorrow if anything does. I'll be back tomorrow morning for the Friday show. But for now, you guys can follow me on Twitter at MMAOB MMAOddsbreaker.com, Sherdog.com. Let me give a shout out to my articles right now. Okay, MMAOddsbreaker.com. I just sent Brian Heminger, our managing editor, my main event preview for Gustafsson Smith, fully written preview. So check that out. MMAnews.com. I have a preview about Smith and Gustafsson as well. Sherdog.com, I have a Prime Picks article, so definitely check that out. That's on the front page of Sherdog right now. Check that out. BJPen.com, I don't have anything right now. I'll send something to them probably today or tomorrow. MMA Ranks.net, I have one on Gus. I already said that, Gus and Smith. And also, I have one on the light heavyweight division. And in my opinion, like almost a mini tournament going on this weekend, so check that out. And also one on just some cuts being made recently and who I think could be cut next. I actually said that in a couple of days ago, just getting it posted today. There's just been some issues with the site there, so check that out. But yeah, like again, for now, follow me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin. If anything breaks, it'll be there. And please subscribe to this, guys. I appreciate the support. I'll be back tomorrow morning to talk about the show. And don't forget to check out the UFC tweeting preview with me and Cole Shelton. That's posted on the Oddsbreaker YouTube channel as well. Have a good day, guys, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning.